Thank you so much for jumping on. I'm so excited for you guys to be here today to learn all about processing the impact that 2020 had on you and still might have on you, right? And there's a lot of different ways that we process things that have happened to us. And I think we all have our own unique way to do it. But for me personally, one of the best ways that I've been able to process hard things in my life is being able to talk to someone about it. And one of the best people that I love talking to about my stuff is one of my amazing friends and professional relationships and personal relationship. Her name is Bex Kagan, and she's the one who's going to be joining us today that you're seeing on here and listening to. And Bex has been a trauma therapist. How long? I don't want to say how long you've been doing what you do, but I just know that you're amazing at what you do because I know people that have worked with you, and because we're friends, we don't work with each other in that way. But you're the reason I decided to get into therapy, and it's been life-changing for me. So can you tell us, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Alex. I'm really excited to be here. So my name's Bex. I own my own practice here in Denver, Colorado. Amazing state of Colorado that I love so much. Originally from Virginia Beach, Virginia. So I'm a beach baby, but I've been here for about 12 and a half years. How long have I been a licensed therapist? I have been, licensed for like 6 years. I've been in the field for 9 years. And I think, like we all play a different role in our families and our childhoods. And I would say I started like support positions for other people very, very young in my life. So I've kind of been the way that I am today. And I just happen to have an education now and a master's in the same thing I've always been doing, which is just showing up for people who are struggling and talking through hard things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so how did you said you've been supporting people since from a very young age, right? Is that why you decided to do what you do today?
Yeah, I think, every family has secrets. Mine certainly has their own. And while I come from a really amazing, privileged family, we had a lot of emotional struggles. And I really took on a role of like, I feel like I was like born being a deeply feeling person. So both in my family and especially in my friend group, I very naturally fell into like a friend role with a lot of people. And I was raised to really put other people before myself and show up fully. And so, yeah, I would say like I feel like my therapist days started when I was like 10. And for better for worse, I was just a secret keeper for a lot of people. In high school, a lot of people came out. They call it coming out anymore, but were talking to me about sexual identity. Look how cute Rumi is in the back, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my emotional support animal, Rumi, the love of my life. But yeah, I feel like people have always known that they could confide in me, and I am really good at secrets, which is good with HIPAA now. And I didn't always know I wanted to be a therapist. I worked in the nonprofit sector for many, many years, and my first job was at a trauma hospital working with people with substance use disorders that were like dying on ventilators and really, really not doing well. And it's that job that made me realize I really want to do this for a living. Like I want to get paid to show up for people and listen to their story and help them process the traumatic things they've been through.
That's such a big undertaking, isn't it?
Yes. I identify as an empath and as a highly sensitive person, which has made my career really hard for me. It's also just kind of made who I am hard for me because I don't have thick skin. I don't want to have thick skin. I cry. I'm really cool with crying. I'm down with crying. I get angry. I feel all the feelings very deeply, and this is who I am. But it's like it's hard, I would say it's just my soul's work to connect with human beings. Like from a very young age, I felt like that's why I was put on this planet, was to connect with others. And I've had a ton of things go wrong in my life. And stood witness to a lot of traumatic things that have gone on for other people. And I just feel like, what is this life if we're not connecting with each other? And it's just, I don't know. It's hard to put words into it. It's like a spiritual journey, but this is just how I've always been. So one day I was just like, I should probably just get paid for this.
Right.
You know, this is what I'm good at, you know? So.
Absolutely. And I agree 1,000% that you are amazing at what you do. And so let's dive into a little bit. The agenda that I have for us today is, which I wish we had 5 hours to go through this, but we don't. So we're going to try to condense it as much as we can. But what I want to dive into is, for our entrepreneurs that are listening, or people who are in, have any type of their own business, even if it's knitting scarves and selling them to people, or giving them away, because different money issues out there for people that just want to give and not getting anything in return, and kind of burning out, which you helped me with that a lot. Do you mind if I just share a quick personal story on what you did for me almost a year ago?
Excuse me. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, cool. Just to give an idea. So I remember when we first met, we're in a networking group together, and we meet every week, not in person right now, but virtually. And I remember when I first got in there, I just wanted to meet with everyone. And I did. There was almost about 40 of us, maybe a little more, a little less. And I was just I wanted to help give everyone all the referrals and just, pour into everybody's cups. Right. And you helped me see that we could, that there is a way to have boundaries. You've taught me major, like, paying homage to you. I don't even know what that means, but I've heard it before. But I'm paying you my life about setting boundaries and being okay with setting boundaries. So, and so thank you on a personal level. Like you taught me how to set boundaries by showing me boundaries. And that was really cool. And and now I'm doing the same thing. And I'm like, whoop, boundaries. Oh, I got those. I got those. My boundary Bex. You're my
I like that. BB.
So, and for those of you that are listening right now, we have Heather watching, we have Trisha watching. Those of you that are on live with us, please feel free to ask Bex any questions that you have about processing the impact that 2020 had on you. Heather Satterfield. Oh my God. Love her. She said, boundaries are huge. Small businesses, ! So can we touch just briefly or forever on boundaries?
Yeah, sure. So I'll tell you, I think here's the secret into therapists is when you want to know what a therapist has been through in their personal life, just look at everything they specialize in. Ooh. And so I used to be so shitty. I cuss. Sorry, Alex.
Do it, dude. Do it.
I used to be so shitty at boundaries. I was a doormat. I showed up to the world I was a martyr. I gave everything because it made me feel good. But then I felt empty, and I've had to learn a lot in my own personal journey. I've been in trauma therapy for 9 years myself. I'm still working with the same therapist I started with in grad school. She's amazing. She's a mentor to me. She's a colleague. She's great at helping me process really hard sessions with clients. So I had no boundaries as a kid. I was just the kid that literally was taught to befriend everybody. And inclusivity is really, really important. I love that I was raised this way, but one area I think a lot of kids aren't raised is how do we love ourselves in the process of giving? And so I gave because it felt good, but I was a doormat. People walked all over me and I let them, and I felt really bad about myself. And so over the years, both in my own journey and getting heard and processing my part, I learned a lot about boundaries, which is essentially the way that I teach other people to love me, and also the way that I can show up and not abandon myself in loving other people. And so I always say, I have a colleague who quoted this first part, boundaries are love, real healthy love is boundaryful. But then I've added boundaries are also self-love. And I say this probably 3 times a week in sessions with clients that we want reciprocity both in the way that we're engaging with others. And what I mean by that is that yes, it feels good to give, but we have to be able to receive. We have to be able
Mhm.
to receive too. And so, yeah, hopefully I explained that well, but I can tell you I specialize in boundaries now. I love talking about boundaries because I used to be so bad at them, Alex. So, so bad.
Yeah. It's hard for me to imagine because I see the boundary Bex today
Yeah.
and not the doormat Bex.
Yeah.
So
Definitely not even remotely a doormat anymore.
no, you're
But
not.
yeah.
And for someone just said something. She said, I love that. Heather said, I love that. Don't be a doormat girl. The biggest thing I advocate to other photographers, she owns her own photographer
Mm.
business, is how to know your worth.
Yes. Yes. To each other. Yes. So
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time talking to clients about worth and, in becoming an entrepreneur, we have to put a numerical financial number on our worth.
Mm.
Right. And so for me, it took me 3.5 years sitting on the therapy couch as a client to finally start charging people money for my services. And that's what a lot of
What?
people don't know about me. And now I charge a lot of money. I mean, I could probably charge more, but I don't want to. I believe in sliding scales and I want therapy to be like an equal opportunity for everyone. But yeah, I think, you and I are in this networking group together, you happen to come into my life where I'm confident and pretty happy and doing well in my business, but the journey was not easy, especially at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So let's dive into that. What about your journey? As you're saying, it wasn't easy getting started. Can you tell me more about the start of becoming your own business as a trauma therapist and gaining your own clients and charging the rate that you're worth?
Yeah, the thing about therapy that is really hard compared to some other um, businesses is that the exchange is not tangible. Right? So
Mm.
that causes people to not necessarily value mental health and therapy in the way that they may value their Starbucks cup of coffee. Right? And because it's not tangible, it doesn't, there's not like we start here, we're going to go here, and we're going to get there. That is not the way that I do therapy. Some people do very calculated versions of therapy. That's not my style. I'm a very fluid, outside of the box kind of person. But therapists unintentionally look like really, really good friends.
Ah,
Really, really good friends. And I am a really good friend to my friends. Hopefully you would say this.
I would say that
Okay.
online.
Right. But I'm not your therapist, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not your therapist. And I think that people have a really hard time in America putting a financial placement on themselves in their own personal growth and development. But it's also because what I do is not tangible, right? You're not going to pay, $100 and get, a used bike that you really wanted so bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just you don't know what you're getting into, and we live in a culture of control.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how did you overcome those things?
Well, in grad school, my therapist friends who are listening to this or will eventually, we had to clean out our friends' closet in grad school because what happened is I came into this world of getting identity and worth by showing up for other people,
Mm.
which is cool and not healthy. And so what happened is I became a therapist at 10 years old, and then I looked around in my friend groups and I was an uneducated therapist. I wasn't having reciprocal relationships with people. People were
Mm-hmm.
coming to me in crisis like they do, my clients do. And I show up to them and give this empathy and the things that I'm good at. So I had to walk away from a lot of relationships that weren't incongruent or weren't in alignment with like reciprocity for me. And that doesn't mean that it was like tumultuous and there was all this, chaos, but I had to really get clear on what is the difference between a client and a friend. And they're very different, very, very different. My clients do not show up for me. I'm
Mm.
shy and I don't let them because that is a pattern they've fallen into, that they have to give something to me to feel valued. I'm here to teach them that I'm their person to talk to and sort through all these patterns and ways of navigating relationships. So the answer always for me is going to be like, I got through all this stuff by a lot of therapy, my own therapy.
Yeah. A lot of therapy. You said cleaning out your friend's closet. Can we talk a little bit more about what that process looked like for you?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, it's about boundaries, right? You know, like I came into this world feeling whole or thinking I was filling myself up by showing up for people in distress. I mean, I've helped people move out of abusive relationships the first time we've ever hung out before, out of their house. This is how I got worth when I was younger. And I would say it's how a lot of my colleagues got worth when we were kids, was like being the support person, being the crisis person, being the consistent, reliable person. And I'm proud that I was raised to be that way. But in terms of cleaning out my friend's closet, it's not a harsh act. It's not like a better than. It's a looking at my life and saying, what do I need in my personal life to be able to survive my professional life? Right.
Wow.
In every area of my life, I have to have some sort of synergy. Like I can't be, I tell my friends all the time, like that I love them deeply and I can't be their therapist now because I have boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to have the energy and the time and the heart that my clients deserve. And if I don't have boundaries around this is what I do professionally and this is what I want personally, then, and it's, this has happened in my younger years, like it all kind of blends together.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, well, the blending together, work and personal life, whether you're an entrepreneur, you want to be an entrepreneur, or you're happy at your job, you can, your personal life can blend with your work life if there's no boundaries, right? So let's pretend someone, there's a woman listening to this and she, or a man, and or they, them, all that. It's a person is listening.
Women, good job, Alex.
Human, thank you. I'm getting better.
You're doing great.
Pronouns. I'm getting better. So what advice could you give that where they're sitting here listening to this and they're saying, how do I even begin? Like, where do they find, and well, we'll talk about finding a therapist at the end actually, but let's pretend they're not eligible for therapy, whether it's finances or time. What's something that they can do today to help them start cleaning out the friend's closet, and or you mentioned identifying what they need in their personal life to support their professional life?
It's a hard thing because I do think it's really individually specific, right? You know, I think I had to get to a certain level of distress and unhappiness to really realize that I needed to evaluate my life. You know, and I think that, you know, relationships are not 50-50 ever. You know, they're 20-80 and then 60-40, and like there's an ebb and flow to relationships. So I don't want to preach that we need to have these like huge expectations for like things are supposed to be perfect and they're supposed to be congruent and reciprocal 100% of the time. Like that's a very calculated, unhealthy, perfectionistic tendency, right? But I think that I would ask people to ask themselves, what do I need in my personal life and am I getting it? You know, and it's hard. I mean, people play a lot of different roles. I work with parents, I work with children, I work with a parent and a child together in family therapy, you know, and the last year of our lives has just been awful for everyone in different ways, right? And so certainly I'm not suggesting that we should just wipe the slate clean, get rid of all of our friends and figure it out. But I do think that we all have this internal compass inside of our gut. And that if we listen to our gut regularly, if we learn to have a relationship between our experience with other people and how we feel on the inside, usually it's going to tell us something.
Yep. Okay. So last year, 2020, you had COVID. and you had one of the worst cases I've seen.
Yeah.
And would you be comfortable talking about last year, how it personally affected you, and then how you're dealing with post-COVID, and not to add fear or to invoke fear with people. Like I'm saying this for me, like that's it, but it's to share your experience, because other people, a lot of people either, well, I think everyone knew someone that had COVID. If you don't know someone that had COVID, you need to add friends to your closet.
They're living under a rock, and we love you anyway.
We love you anyway. Put some friends in your closet. No, just kidding. And, and so you had COVID. It was very traumatic. It was very intense. And there were 3 times where you thought you were going to die. Tell us about that.
I haven't talked about this outside of therapy. I appreciate you asking, because I am ready to talk about it. I think when I first got COVID, I had a lot of shame. I mean, a major shame. I am my own worst critic. It's kind of a familial trait. We are very hard on ourselves and very high achieving, but like I've had to really learn to have a kinder self-dialogue. But in this moment, you know, I did like let loose and engage socially in a way that like I wasn't doing. Like I was probably a 9 out of 10 on the seriousness of COVID scale. And then I just kind of, you know, I'm wild, you know this, like I'm very free spirited, I'm very Sagittarius, and I just got tired and I let it get to me and I made a mistake. And that created the worst case, like you said, of COVID that most people have seen. I've been in therapy every week since, and I will say, you know, like speaking of friends' closet, cleaning them out, you find out who your real friends are when you think you're going to die. And I am really, really blessed that I had so many amazing people show up for me in my life. I mean, people came out of the woodworks. There's people I've never even hung out with one-on-one on Facebook who brought me my Chinese herbs from my Chinese doctor that I needed. He had to change them like every day to every 2 days because my symptoms kept changing. And so I had to clean out my friend's closet again, but not majorly. There were some big heartbreaks of people that just weren't able to be there for me. And it's also a really fascinating journey as an entrepreneur. And I don't have any backup for my clients. And most of my clients have PTSD, and we're in this really awful economic crisis and global pandemic. And I couldn't work for a couple weeks, which not only was painful and hard and challenging because I love my job, but it cost me a shit ton of money getting COVID. So in hindsight, I'm not going to ever tell you that I think traumas have a reason. I really struggle when people say that. Like, yeah, I get like queasy when people talk about, well, there's a reason for everything. I'm like, no, like there's not. But it is important to me that I learn from experiences. And I feel like getting COVID, having the worst case I've heard of, other than we did have a family member who was elderly who passed. Like, I think the problem with COVID is there's so many different variations of it. And you are one of the few people who has seen my version. And so we all know somebody that got COVID that was like a little bit sick. And most people don't know somebody who literally saw their life flash before their eyes multiple times in a 5th floor apartment by myself for 18 days, you know, like, and so I think, you know, I've been able to make meaning out of what's happened. I feel really proud that when I thought I was going to die, I was at peace. That's like to the amount of, I mean, I specialize in grief and loss, but I've had a lot of it. And I was already really clear on my relationship with death before I got so sick. So I think the hardest part is the naysayers, the people that are very dismissive, even, you know, people in my family or in my friend group, you know, like people just want to deny things that aren't tangible again, you know, that they don't see or know. And like I made a fucking reality television show of my COVID journey, trying to educate people on my Facebook of like trying to warn them, like, don't get to where I am. It's the worst thing I've ever been through. So long story short, I feel like I just got my energy back. Like I actually am able to go on a walk now for the first time in 3 months, like in the last week.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
yeah. So that said, I think it's made me an even like a better therapist, because I'm actually able to help my clients navigate a really unknown thing in a way that I know things about.
Right. Right. And so when you experienced that and you said there were people that showed up for you that you never thought you wouldn't have guessed in a long time would show up to you, and then some other people didn't, and you're processing that through therapy and you're going through things, how and you're able to relate to people more because of the hard thing that you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I like how you mentioned the lessons that we can learn, but not necessarily that everything happens for a reason. But how can we learn from this experience?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to wish trauma on anybody, myself included, right? So I'm not going to say,
Right.
I'm never going to tell you I'm thankful it happened. It has changed me
Yeah.
tremendously, honestly. But I wouldn't say it's changed me for the worse, because I already had access to a really amazing therapist. I mean, my therapist was doing sessions with me while I was actively suffering with COVID. I mean, I texted her one day and she showed up in 30 minutes for a session. And she's really modeled the kind of therapist I want to be when things like this happen. But she's also boundaryful, right? But like, she knew that I thought I was dying, like, and I'm really thankful I didn't. I'm really thankful I didn't. But yeah, it's been a lot to process. I think it's going to take me years
Mm-hmm.
to process it all, and I think that's true for everyone in the last year, whether they got COVID or not, whether they had a major loss, whether it be death or like a breakup or processing heartache. I think I've seen everybody's mental health, everyone that we know included,
Mm-hmm.
networking group. I have a palpable like feeling of people and how they're doing in the collective, and it's been bad. Mental health has been bad.
Mm-hmm.
Not that mental health is bad, but people are struggling, everyone. And it's just, I think it's going to take us some years after this is finally all freaking over. I have hope for us to look back and realize how much we were in fight, flight, or freeze the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so people from last year and going on now, and you're talking about learning from experiences. Do you have any lessons that you learned last year that maybe one of your clients or friends learned last year, that you can share with us that we can take away on a positive note from, going into this new year? What are some lessons that you can share with us?
Oh, wow. I think I could talk about this for hours. Really challenge a fixed mindset and try to have a growth mindset. I've had clients who literally quit their jobs in the middle of a global pandemic, in the middle of an economic crisis, scared shitless, thinking they weren't going to be able to find new work, who quit their jobs without a plan, who are making six figures now.
Wow.
And that is actually like a really common story for my clients. And so I would say, yes, we are in the middle of all these things, but like, find the ability to believe in yourself regardless. And if you can't do it alone, reach out to somebody like me. I mean, I couldn't do it alone. I still second guess myself sometimes. Like, we're all human, but I think the people who have struggled the most during the global pandemic are people who are stuck in a fixed mindset. It's got to be this way or this way. And it's like, life is not all or nothing. It's somewhere in the middle. And I really love the quote, "A leap in the net will appear. There is love behind our fear."
Mm.
And I tell my clients that all the time. And several of them, all the racial injustice in this country in the last year, and Black people getting killed, and all the economic crisis and hardships and naysayers and fake news. I can't tell you how many people shamed me while I had COVID and were like thinking I was lying. It's just really bizarre shit. But I think that this last year really put a lot of perspective into people and how happy they were in their jobs and how happy they were in their relationships and their families and their lives. And my hope is that people have been willing to look in the mirror. And if it feels too much, to just reach out. You know, I don't believe anyone doesn't have access to therapy, just to go back for a second.
Oh, good. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Like, I mean, certainly like I don't take health insurance anymore. I did my whole career until the last year, and my clients paid either nothing or $3 to see me. This is what I am proud of that. But most of us have sliding scale spots. You know, and if we don't have sliding scale spots, or like we don't have any vacancy, like I'm always going to help anyone find a therapist. And so even if you don't have health insurance, there's ways to navigate finding a therapist. Now, a lot of people are going to therapy right now. Does that mean that I could find somebody that somebody could see every single week? No, like I can't even see all my clients every single week because of capacity. But I think everybody really deserves that gift of belief in self and really truly looking in the mirror and liking the person who's staring back, but also evaluating that we're imperfect and just striving for better. So.
Yeah, striving for better. Something that I just put on my Facebook wall the other day, and then possibly in my email signatures, is developing or creating a community of people who are developing a community of people who are creating a better tomorrow by showing up the best they can today.
I love it.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Right?
Dope.
Like, dope. Fist pump. And that's what you're doing too, you know, and being able to meet people where they're at and try to just listen. One of my friends said we're in a listening drought, you know, and so what do you think people need to hear? Like believing in themselves, having a growth mindset, being flexible, reaching out to talk to someone. And like, again, and then the basis is believing in yourself. Is there anything that I missed?
Well, I do want to touch on what your friend said about a listening drought. That's really, really true. I think we're at this place in isolation, and some people are quarantined, and the global pandemic, and some people have lost their jobs, that people are really emotionally exhausted. And I would say not just people, I would say everyone, including me. And I think that I would really encourage people. One thing that I've had to challenge myself with, both recently in the cleaning the friends closet and who's right for my life and who's not, and something I challenge a lot of my clients with, is like, are we creating stories by other people's behaviors? Like, do we actually know that so-and-so didn't reach out to me because they don't love me or they don't want to listen to me? Or is there something else that could be going on for them that we could check in about and really reality test this unfactual, like, demeaning, not healthy perspective, right? I would say that, like, it's easy in isolation, way easier than pre-COVID, to create a story that somebody doesn't want to be friends with us, somebody's not there when we need them, somebody doesn't love us, because I've actually had to check myself on this. Like, sometimes when I've thought that or had that premonition of like, nobody wants to listen to me, and it might be this specific person, a specific friend, I'm always there for them, you know, I've had to ask myself, like, I want to stay curious about what's going on in their life right now. You know, and that doesn't mean that I don't deserve friends who show up for me, but we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. This is why, like, even in a romantic relationship, we are not going to get all our needs met from 1, 2, 3 people, right? Well, it depends if you're monogamous or polyamorous, but you know what I mean? Like, we need a lot of people, and introverts need and desire less people. Get energy by being around themselves, refuel. People like me who are very clearly so extroverted. I've got like so many different people. And so I remind myself like not to put my emotional investment or my emotional needs just in one person. And if somebody can't show up for me, I do try now to say, well, I really wonder what the last year of their life has been for them, you know, and then I'll try to connect. If they don't respond, I'm not going to continue. That's a boundary. I'm not going to continue to exhaust my energy on a relationship that has now felt one-sided.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we are we're in a listening drought, but everybody wants connection so badly right now. So tell me how that is what we need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So.
Right. Yeah. You know, I've been in recovery in a 12-step program for almost 3 years.
Yes, you have.
Yes, I have. Woo, woo. We're getting 2.5. You know, it's really been a solid 2.5.
Let me get that.
We're getting there. We're getting there. And we talk about the opposite of addiction is connection, right? And a lot of people turn to alcohol, weed, drugs last year because they were isolated. So it was like the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Connection is we become addicted to other things, right? And more of it. And there's never enough. We always say in the program that I'm in, you know, 1 is too many and 1,000 is never enough. And it's so true. And not to get into addiction and all that. But we need connection.
Yes, we're wired for it deeply.
We are, right? And working from home. And at first it's like, oh, this is tight. Like I can wear my leggings. Like I've been wearing leggings for a year.
Yeah, leggings.
Yeah.
Come on. Why would I wear anything other than leggings?
Why would we wear anything other than leggings? Right. Come on. So it's cool at first last year, and getting to be home with our kids kind of depends on what kind of parent you are, what kind of kids you have or spouse or whatever, how your family is. And then after a while, it just became like almost like this. Have you found that there's like this almost like at least last year for me, like 6 months ago, anxiety about when are things going to go back to normal? And what is that going to look like? The holidays are coming up. Like, you know, even like my son going back to school and getting off remote learning, like, what am I going to do when he's not here? Because I'm used to having him here with me. We've been home together for 8 months. Like, dude, it's been crazy. It's been crazy.
It is. It's wild. And I think it's been fascinating. You know, I live alone. I work now. I got my office in my house. I got this really cute dog over here.
Yes. Aww.
Was the love of my life, but like, you know, like she doesn't really give me a lot of perspective. She does give me a lot of snuggles. You know, I was talking to a family member recently, and he reminded me, he's like, listen, like I live with my best friend and I love my children and I'm lonely. You know, and I think that that's really taught me, and I'm lonely. Like I live alone. This is not the setup I really wanted. It's just the way things worked with COVID. And I never wanted to be a business owner by myself. You know, that's why we're in a networking group together. Like I am not an island at all. But I think everybody is really struggling with loneliness. Everyone, whether they have their son home or whether he's in virtual learning, there's a lonely, hollow feeling that we had all these things that we can't have right now, and we need them. You know, so I don't know if that answered your question, but I did just really want to normalize that everyone I talk to is lonely, everyone in every capacity of my life, myself included. And we're being challenged to really, you know, to your point about addiction, we're being challenged. We've been challenged. I mean, I would add sex and food in there too, addictions in the last year. We've been challenged to say, am I willing to sit with my emotional experience and honor it and let it be? And am I willing to cope in healthy ways or maladaptive ways? You know, and I'm not even suggesting perfection. Like I struggle sometimes with maladaptive coping. I talk to my therapist about it. Like we're all so imperfect and we're all doing the best we can with where we're at, with what we have on our plate. But I did want to normalize that. Part of the reasons I think therapy is all the rage right now, at least it isn't my practice, and like a lot of my colleagues we're slammed, which is a blessing, but it's been really hard too, is that we're wired for connection and we can't have it in the way that we need it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously going to bring up a lot of emotional turmoil in us and a lot of discomfort.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Even I was speaking of connection. I was talking to my upline at doTERRA, and I was talking to her about social media, because I really don't post a whole lot on my social media or places about my business. And I'm like, and then I was asking, like, so what's the point of even like being on social media? Like, I took almost 2 to 3 months off at the end of last year, because with the Randy says, wonderful seeing this with you too.
I love Randy.
Hi, Randy.
Love you, Randy. I love Randy.
I feel like the three of us should do a virtual coffee together.
Or a virtual podcast.
Or virtual. Oh my gosh, a virtual podcast.
Can we do a try that?
I've never done 3 people. I'm sure it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're doing it, Randy.
Energy, so
Yeah, we're going to do it, Randy. We're going to reach out to you. We're going to get that done. So like with social media and getting on, she said yes to both. Yes to both. Good. And I kind of took some time off, because it's like I was getting on Facebook. Facebook is my social media drug. Okay. All the other ones I'm not on. I mean, I post on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on anything else, but Facebook seems to be my home, like that's my social media home.
Yeah.
And I would get on and I'd be scrolling and I would find myself just like getting more and more like, I don't even have a word, like hollow, right? Empty. Like it wasn't fulfilling anything good. And it wasn't that people were posting bad things, for those of you that are listening to this, instead of watching the video on like the podcast, I'm just using air quotes, like things that would normally drag someone down. It wasn't even that. It wasn't connecting for me. And so I had to ask her the other day, I'm like, why I got on back in January, and it's like doing the same kind of thing. But she said, it's just to have connection with people, and to them show that you're there and you are connected. And it is a way for other people to connect. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like I have to always I get into things and then I got to step back, and then I get into something, then I got to step back and be like, okay, why am I doing this? Yeah. What is the reason here? Because my favorite thing to do is to listen to people and also talk to people. And I try not to give advice unless they really want it. Because have you found most people, not most, I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to, delete, rewind, play.
A lot of people
just need a vent. They just need a verbally process, right?
Sure.
And just be heard. And then asking, hey, are you open to some ideas around that? Or are you just trying to vent? And just giving their permission, because again, back to the listening drought, everyone's got something to say. And we have learned so much in the last year about ourselves that it makes sense that we would want to share that knowledge with other people, because they might be going through a hard time. And a lot of people do want to make a big difference in other people's lives, but we're going about it in so many ways that may or may not be productive. I'm not the guru of communication, but I just feel this disconnect between the way people communicate with each other.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, half my caseload has done a Facebook social media cleanse over the years. I've done one. I think not everybody has the same needs and desires out of social media as other people. You'll find some people that just scroll and never comment and never post. And this is just the way that they navigate it. And this is what they want. You'll find people like me who post almost every day. And I just want to either be vulnerable and help people connect to pain and suffering and realness, or be inspiring and try to bring people up. Those are my 2 ways. But I think that the biggest issue with social media is what I call the number one biggest reason for self-sabotage, which is comparing ourselves to others. And even me, I think I'm really authentic on social media. I had a conversation with a friend recently, and I was like, social media is not real life, including with me. Like if we don't check in for months and you think that you're up to date with me on social media, that's not real life. No, nobody puts everything for the most part out on social media, and we probably shouldn't, you
Mm.
know? But I think that, yes, we are so wired for connection. Every single person, whether they think they want it or not, we're in a listening drought. And I would say, you know, if you look around your life and you feel like you are actually showing up and listening to other people, like you're offering what you desire, and you're not feeling like it's reciprocated, maybe it is a time to reassess some of your relationships. Because I'll tell you what happened for me when I've done that is people have like fallen out of the sky. You know, you're a great example of that. You and I've only known each other for the last year, right? And, you know, like I didn't have a lot of, I was focused on certain relationships, you know, throughout my life, and I only have so much capacity. If I'm investing in relationships that aren't reciprocal, I don't have any energy or heart space for all these people that could be showing up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the world is not lack. And I think that's probably my biggest message in life in general, but including during really challenging times, is I want us to transition out of seeing the world as lack and focus on what we do have control over. So this is this concept of radical acceptance. A lot of my clients have left their jobs and found way better jobs during an economic crisis. And no, some of them did not think they were going to do it. And they proved to themselves, do you know how fulfilling that is, to chase down your dreams fearlessly and like not let every hiccup define your future?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like getting on a tangent here, Alex, but I'm excited about our conversation. So I'm just
I am too.
over here.
I'm excited for the people that are listening and that are absorbing this message of valuing yourself, looking in the mirror, liking what you see, and facing and chasing your dreams fearlessly, and maybe, just maybe, having a therapist that you can have in your corner to process the trauma that happened to all of us in 2020. And you'll be surprised, there might be things that can be pulled out of your, let's call it a junk drawer. There might be some really cool things in there to bring out from childhood that need to be processed. I was in therapy the other day and I started crying about because my dad used to help me with my homework and I was on honor roll in middle school. And then once he wasn't there anymore, I used drugs. I ran away. Like I hated school. I got like basically straight ups. I think I don't know what's the lowest GPA you can have, but I had it. And I was like crying about it. And I was shocked. I was like, why am I crying about this?
Yeah.
This is like 20 years ago. Like, let's get
Yeah.
over it. But it's so cool to be like, wow, you know, I want to get through this and I want to help other people get through it too. And I know that that's your goal as well, that we can all, you know, process last year together. And I think, like you said, we'll probably be processing it for a lot longer than just 2021.
If we choose to show up for ourselves, we will, you know. And I love what you said, through, because we don't get over anything unless we go through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the cool thing about feelings, and also a hard thing about feelings for people, is that we don't get to decide what they are. We just feel the way we do. And the sooner we can honor how we really feel about something and allow ourselves to be emotional in a healthy way, you know, not hurting ourselves or other people, the sooner we're going to feel better.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cool beans, sister. So our time is coming to an end. Are there any, I want people to know you're Bex Kagan with Kagan Counseling. How can people get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is Beckykagancounseling at gmail.com. I have not made it a priority to change my email to Bex yet, so that won't happen for years, I promise. So BECKYKAGAN counseling, COUNSELING at gmail.com. And then I only have a couple slots open right now for new clients, but I am accepting some new clients. But the cool thing about me is I'll always give you a list of 3 to 5 people who kind of fit the specialty that you might need help with. You get to pick gender identity, you get to tell me a little bit about things going on, and I'll just run a Psychology Today search, which you can also do yourself. So that's the best website to find a therapist, psychologytoday.com, and you can filter it based on zip code, insurance, modality of therapy. It's really pretty dope.
It's super dope. That's where I found my therapist, and I love her. She's great. Yeah, she was the first person I searched for, and I just saw her picture. I saw her specialties. I saw her bio, and I was like, she's the one. And I waited 2 months to get in with her because she was full. And I was like, you're it.
That's a good point. Most therapists, myself included, have a wait list. Constantly ebbing and flowing. People are graduating from therapy, which is always really freaking cool, right? People are moving out of state, which I can only practice psychotherapy in the state of Colorado. So you just never know. So, but yeah, I'm always on board to help. I help people across the country find therapists in their area. So just email me if you need some help.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And I will have you back with Randy soon.
Oh yeah, tripod.
Yeah.
Trifecta, the wellness
trifecta
coming at you.
All right.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
You're welcome.